Welcome to Politically Basic. I'm your host, Kyle Campbell. As we always do, we're breaking down the basics of all political issues and current political events so that you get to decide. You might look at my guest today and think, well, he sure looks sweet and polished and professional, and he sure is all of those things. You know what else he is, though? Brilliant, tenacious, and a fighter for his district and our beloved state of California. That's right, I've got the boy next door who's got Governor Newsom shaking in his Gucci loafers. It's Rep. Kevin Kiley on Newsom Nonsense today. He's one of the few California congressmen willing to take the gloves off and expose what's really happening in Sacramento. From uncovering waste, fraud, and failed policies to going head-to-head with Governor Gavin Newsom, Kiley has built a reputation for challenging a system many believe is broken and unaccountable, but feel hopeless and don't know what to do about it. I have a feeling the congressman's going to help us with that today. Long before Congress, he was a leading voice calling out corruption, misuse of taxpayer dollars, and executive overreach in California. And now representing us in Washington, Kiley continues that fight, demanding transparency, accountability, and real consequences when government fails the people it serves. Congressman, you are a rising star in California. I'm so glad you're on the show today. Thank you for being with us.
Well, thank you for having me, and wow, thank you for that amazing introduction. I'm very honored.
Well, California is very happy to have you fighting the good fight here in this state. You're one of the few people doing it, and so I especially wanted to hear from you today. But tell my viewers just a little bit about how you found yourself in political leadership in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born and raised in California, and I love California, and I always say California is worth fighting for. But unfortunately, as we all know all too well, our state's failed political leadership has caused it to, go into this downward spiral. So I originally ran for the state assembly in hopes of trying to fight to preserve and restore and advance the state that we love, and to save it from the political radicalism and corruption that has done such damage. And so I spent 6 years in the state assembly and have tried to carry on that mission now over 2 terms in Congress.
Let me ask you, what in the world district are you representing anyway? Do you know, with all of this slicing and dicing of these districts, which one is yours these days?
Well, I still represent the 3rd district under the map that we had prior to Prop 50. So the Prop 50 map doesn't take effect until after this year's election, so not until 2027. So for the remainder of my term through the end of this year, I still represent the 3rd district, which is comprised of about of 10 counties, all or part of 10 counties along the Nevada border. And so Placer County is where I live. Is the largest population center in my district, but it also includes the California side of Lake Tahoe, goes as far north as Plumas County, and goes as far south as Inyo County, Death Valley being kind of the southernmost terminus.
Okay, well, I'm glad to get that straight because I think there's been some confusion, with the passing of Prop 50 and a lot of lawsuits coming against it. Maybe you can tell us where things stand, but I just want to make sure we're clear. You're using the old maps until midterms or the 2026 election, and then potentially, allegedly, the new maps would take effect. Do I have that right?
That's correct, because the term that I was elected to in 2024, I was elected to that by the constituents of my current district, of the 3rd district. So they can't change that. What Prop 50 did was it tore up the old map and put in the gerrymandered map going forward. So it'll be used for the first time in this coming election.
Okay, well, I don't put a lot past them, so I'm glad to hear the clarification. Now, where are things with those lawsuits against Prop 50?
Yeah, so there's a challenge ongoing that is in the Supreme Court now, and they're likely to issue an opinion soon. And the lower court, sided with Newsom and said that this is all fine and constitutional. So we'll see what the Supreme Court does. The challenge is that we're so close to the election right now that the candidate filing period opens in about a week, and the Supreme Court generally doesn't like to change things so close to an election.
Hmm.
That's why I'm proceeding under the assumption that the Prop 50 map is going to be used in this next election,
Hmm.
regardless of the merits of the underlying, legal case. I think that, that's reason why, if the court doesn't, reach an outcome that we see as favorable, that might be
Hmm.
the reason.
Hmm. Is that going to change anything for you then on how you're going to approach the midterms and running for reelection?
Well, sure, it means that I won't be able to continue to represent my current district, which is really sad because I love my district. I think it's the most beautiful in the state. And so, under the Prop 50 map, they have basically obliterated it. It doesn't exist as a cohesive district anymore. Instead, they've cut it into six different pieces, and then each of those pieces branches out to form its own new district.
Oh, it's incredible when you look at the map. I mean, the visuals make no sense. I mean, they make sense if you're looking at it from the perspective of what they were trying to accomplish, which is not to accurately represent people in any certain area. But the shapes are like deformed animals. It's pretty remarkable. Well, Congressman, I'd love to talk to you about some of these things that you have been so successful at fighting against. I mean, I don't even know where to start, but maybe, it's almost like every other day that there's some other massive amount of fraud or corruption or waste being uncovered in this state. I mean, we just heard that Dr. Oz has found an outrageous number of hospice centers, in the Los Angeles area, and there was fire aid fraud, and there is budget bloat, and there's a gas tax being implemented, and Chevron's leaving, and I mean, it could go on and on and on. Let's just start first with what's going on in your area and where you have really focused in on what's going on with all of this fraud that's being uncovered. Have we scratched the surface yet?
We've scratched the surface, but I think, it's really just the tip of the iceberg that has come into focus. We know about a lot of fraud already in California. The state auditor, which is an independent entity, has reported on this extensively. For example, during COVID, there was the unemployment fraud amounting to some, $32 billion at a minimum. We know about millions lost in community college fraud. A third of those applications were fake. We had another state audit that just came out that increased the number of agencies that are considered high risk. It's doubled the number of agencies that are subject to serious waste, fraud, abuse, or mismanagement during Gavin Newsom's tenure as governor. So they cited SNAP and Medi-Cal and the EDD on an ongoing basis as potentially, amounting to billions in improper payments. And then you have these just, massive amounts of spending on things like high-speed rail or homelessness without anything actually being, achieved through that spending. And so that raises a lot of questions about what might be going on. And in fact, we're starting to get answers to those questions. We're seeing indictments now coming down in connection with fraud. With the homelessness money. So I'm working on ways to uncover more of this, to bring more accountability, but I think there's much more than even meets the eye now.
Wow. Well, thank you for working on that and for keeping the fire to their feet, truly. And also, we really appreciate that you shut down any additional money being spent on the high-speed rail. I mean, in 100 years, no one's going to need to get from Bakersfield to Merced quickly. So we're happy to at least see that the tourniquet has been put on there, because that was painful to see all of that money just gushing out and nothing happening. The governor, he seems to be unaffected by these things and will take media interviews and say everything's going fine. And no, we've started to lay track for some of this. And what's your take on his attitude toward all of this fraud? I mean, he has got to know about it, and he's kind of seems like he's continuing just to gaslight the people of California like it's not happening. What's going on there?
Oh, totally. I mean, everything he is saying on this is 100% divorced from reality. The fact is that Gavin Newsom has made California the fraud capital
Yeah.
of the world. So let's just start with this high risk audit
Mm.
that the state auditor just came out with. It showed that the number of agencies that are considered at high risk of waste, fraud, abuse, or mismanagement has doubled since Gavin Newsom became governor. Let's look at the fraud that we know about, the $32 billion in unemployment fraud during COVID. The state auditor found that this didn't just happen, it happened because of Newsom's negligence at best, where the state refused to implement basic fraud control measures that almost every other state did, ignored repeated warnings from the federal government, suspended a critical safeguard, and so allowed these international criminal syndicates to just easily pilfer the state of absolutely insane amounts of money. And so you then can, you can look at each of the areas we've talked about. Think about homelessness, $24 billion over 5 years. They can't tell you where the money went. They can't tell you what we got for it. Homelessness got worse. We're seeing all of these rampant, these fraud schemes that are now starting to be prosecuted. And meanwhile, by the way, Gavin Newsom vetoed multiple bills that were supposed to bring transparency to homelessness spending.
Right.
Bills that passed unanimously with bipartisan support and vetoed them. So if he, is wants to be open and wants to, claim that he's not responsible for any of this, why would he veto those bills?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it does seem like he wants to backfill this giant debt hole now with more taxes. So we're hearing about the billionaire tax, and anyone with any kind of wealth has fled immediately. And he has talked about, I think there have been rumors of an exit tax, that they're reaching out to people who have moved out of the state of California to pay additional taxes. And then lately we've been hearing a lot about this mileage tax. What is going on? Are we going to have to pay these? Please give us some good news here.
I hope not. I mean, the wealth tax is absolutely crazy. What they're proposing is that, and they say it's for billionaires. Okay, so they say we'll start off for billionaires, which a couple things on that. Number one, it always starts with billionaires, and then it moves on to everyone else. But number two, they're assessing someone's sort of net worth on paper. And so these are not people that just have like $1 billion sitting around in some bank account. And so what they're saying is we are going to seize 5% of your assets. So if on paper you're worth $1 billion, we're going to, take 50 million of that, just, and take it for ourselves. And so that's the proposal. But they're also saying that it's going to apply to people who've already moved out of the state. Right. So if this thing passes, it'll take effect next year, but it would apply to anyone who is a resident of California as of the beginning of this year, which is why you've already seen people like the founders of Google who have said we are out of here and moved out of the state before the beginning of this year. So I'm actually working on legislation in Congress to try to, preempt this under the Commerce Clause, because you're not legally allowed, constitutionally allowed to tax residents of other states.
Wow. Incredible. Thank you for doing that. I mean, let's say some people did stay and it actually passed. I mean, worst case scenario, the amount that they would be able to collect, that the state would get, would only be a drop in the bucket from these billions and billions that have been lost and, put into other people's pockets and not actually placed into programs to make things better or to benefit the state. I mean, this isn't a long-term solution by any means. What do you think is going to happen if it doesn't pass?
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, the problem in California is not a lack of revenue. Gavin Newsom has grown the state budget to about $330 billion, which is about a 50% increase, more than that actually, since when he took office. And so, he's increased the budget by that amount, and yet the quality of life in our state, by every measure, has gotten worse. We lead the nation in homelessness. We lead the nation in the cost of living, in unemployment, in poverty, despite this massive increase in spending. So this idea that suddenly, if we just get more money, more tax revenue, then that's going to solve the problems we have, that has been proven to be false already. But on top of all of that, it's not even clear that this proposal will bring us more revenue. Right. Because when you have the likes of the founders of Google and many others who are leaving the state in order to evade this or avoid this, seizure of their assets, well, guess what? They're no longer taxpayers at all. So
Hmm.
we're not getting their income taxes or property taxes or any of the other taxes that they're paying. And so this actually could well set in motion a vicious cycle that totally collapses our state's finances because our tax structure as it is heavily, heavily reliant on those who make the most money.
That's so right. And those people are not stupid enough to just sit around and have all of this wealth that they have amassed chipped away to kind of backfill this debt. So I hope that doesn't happen and that someone with some financial sense gets in there. But again, we're glad they're in there fighting. Let's take Gavin Newsom out of the equation for just a second here. We are coming up to a gubernatorial election this fall. A lot of momentum on the right. It does seem like people are tired of all this nonsense and all of this harm to the people of California. What would you say are our state's biggest issues that people should be focused on going into that election?
Oh gosh, where do we even start? I mean, California, as Newsom likes to say, does lead the nation, but in all of the wrong ways. I just mentioned a few of them. Let's look at the economy. We have both the highest unemployment rate and the highest cost of living. And so that makes our state uniquely unaffordable because more people don't have jobs, and our wage growth has also been among the worst in the country, by the way. And then it's more expensive than anywhere to buy a house here, or to pay rent, or to pay your water bills or your electricity bills. And we have the highest gas prices, of course, by a significant margin. So that issue, I think, is fundamental. Is just basically the ability to get by, which is putting this idea of the American dream out of reach for more and more people in California. But we could go down the list. The quality of life issues like crime, like homelessness, obviously the tax issue, which is part of affordability as well. The declining quality of education in California, where we have, in fact, the highest illiteracy rate of any state in the entire country. So, there are, you can add to all of this these issues of waste and fraud and corruption
Right.
and of accountability as well. So I think that you measure the satisfaction with the public on all of these issues, you'll see that the people of California are ready for change, are ready for something different. In fact, they voted for that before with Prop 36 last year.
No kidding, we're ready for something different. This is tough to be a Californian these days. We love this state. Some of us have, come through multiple generations of family lineage in this state. We've built businesses and we love it here. It's been very painful to kind of suffer through this bad leadership. Well, the race is upon us, and what do you know? The two top candidates polling at the very top are Republicans, which I'm not sure why this is a surprise to some people, right? Of course, we've had the worst of the worst on the other side leading us, basically dragging us down into ruin. What do you think about this? You've got Steve Hilton, Chad Bianco topping the polls. Katie Porter got pretty effectively bumped out just by showing her true colors. And Eric Swalwell, we're not sure if this mortgage fraud and the information he provided to submit to actually run for governor is legal. And he has some legal issues coming his way. And now Matt Mahan, the mayor of San Jose, who calls himself a moderate, has thrown his hat in the ring. What do you think about all this?
Well, it's really an open race because actually so many people have passed on running. Of course, Kamala was going to run, and then it was going to be Alex Padilla, and then we heard names like Rob Bonta, Rick Caruso, and then you had people who were running and aren't running anymore, like Eleni Kounalakis, who's now running for treasurer, I think. So it is in some sense a testament to just what a train wreck the Newsom governorship has been, in that kind of all of these higher profile Democrats are like, no thanks, we don't want anything to do with this. So I do think that, there is a coalition in California. It's still a blue state, but there's a coalition that just wants to restore some common sense. And I think that, that the data that you cite is maybe one indication of that.
I sure hope so. Gosh, we need some just base level common sense coming in here. And plus, we have seen a lot of the governor's staffers and even the AG's staffers kind of take the fall in recent months for other things going on. So maybe nobody wants to come in and be complicit in a lot of this fraud, and you can't blame them. As we speak, things are just still exploding in the Los Angeles area and all across the state. But it does seem to be a little bit of a magnet down there for this lawlessness and aggression against immigration officers and federal law enforcement. Do you think that Trump is right in backing off of offering National Guard support or support on the federal level and putting that ownership and responsibility back to state and local leadership to handle their own situations and ask the federal government for help? This is all unfolding today. And so I just kind of want to bring us up to speed a little bit and get your take on this, because it does seem like this is going to be a big, big issue, this lawlessness and public safety as we go into the midterms.
Right. Well, the president was clear that he will protect federal property and federal officers. And so that is an important distinction, is that, if you have this lawlessness that is threatening, endangering officers, endangering federal property, then there's a strong federal interest in protecting those things. That needs to happen in order for the policy that people voted for to be implemented. So I think that, when you look at jurisdictions like Los Angeles or like, Chicago, Minneapolis, Manhattan, these very high crime jurisdictions, I think we need to restore order there. And fortunately, we've seen a few positive changes in California recently. But, ultimately, the way that you have to do that is through changes at the state and local level. Changing these very lenient policies that basically have no consequences for criminal activity, which we did with Prop 36 last year in California to some extent. These rogue prosecutors that don't enforce the law. We've actually gotten rid of some of those in California as well, with George Gascon being voted out overwhelmingly in Los Angeles. So, there has been, I think, some improvement in some parts of California and perhaps in some other places across the country. But I think that, nevertheless, there's far too much violence, far too much crime in many of our cities.
Well, that's hopeful. I guess there are some wins happening out there, and it's good to focus on those. You have had several, including this Sites Reservoir lately. Can you tell my audience what happened there?
Yeah, so Sites has been in the works for some time now. It's moved much more slowly than it should have. It honestly could have been built decades ago. But nevertheless, it's gathered major momentum in recent years. It's finally gotten some funding from the state. We've secured funding at the federal level as well, and it just recently received the federal approval that it needs to move forward. So now we're looking at construction actually beginning potentially at the start of next year. And, this could then be, and I think it will be, the first new major water storage in California in about 50 years. This is going to add 1.5 million acre-feet of water. It's an off-site reservoir on the border of Colusa and Glenn County. And that is going to do a lot to stop this cycle of droughts and rationing that we have learned to just have to live with. It's become a fact of life in California because of the failure to adequately plan when it comes to storing and saving water.
Well, congratulations and thank you on behalf of everyone in this state. Just nothing's been getting done. It's been the most ultimately frustrating thing, especially after the Palisades fire, where there have been some people like Spencer Pratt, as an example, who have really highlighted that we have many issues that contributed there, but this water collection and storage has been a real bane. And again, Karen Bass, Gavin Newsom, these people do not seem motivated at all to fix anything. We just had record rainfall. I don't know, did we collect any of that? Are we doing anything? But I mean, you are, and we are so appreciative. What would you say is the thing that you have been most proud to have taken part in or done in your time as a congressman so far?
Well, I actually am most proud of the work that we do when it comes to constituent service. Through my district office, we've resolved 5,000 different cases for constituents. Things like getting access to your Social Security benefits or your VA benefits, or getting a passport when you need it, tax refund, things like that. That actually is the most important part of the job, in my opinion. But when it comes to the work in Washington, D.C., at the beginning of this year, I put forward a plan to what we called Newsom-proof California, so that we could check and balance and override and overturn and mitigate the harm that Newsom is inflicting on Californians. And I think we've been enormously successful in bringing that plan into reality. To give you a few examples, you mentioned we cut off the federal funding for high-speed rail. This ban on gas-powered cars that Newsom had promulgated. We've gotten that reversed through a bill I introduced that was signed into law by President Trump. Of course, we passed Prop 36 to make crime illegal again in California. We won a Supreme Court case that I did a brief for to allow our communities to remove homeless encampments, which is actually leading to some improvement in places across California. On education, we passed the most revolutionary, most comprehensive school choice policy, perhaps in the history of Congress, and that was signed into law last year as well. Of course, we have the funding and approval for Sites Reservoir when it comes to water storage. So we've forced Newsom to end his policy of free Medi-Cal for illegal immigrants, and we're also, looking at further ways to crack down on these sanctuary jurisdictions. And even now, we're looking at ways to potentially cap the tax that Newsom has allowed to be imposed on gas. So I think that, as much damage as Newsom has inflicted on California, we've stopped him from making it a lot worse.
Wow, that is incredible. You have done so much. I'm blown away hearing about all of it together. Thank you so much. I know I keep thanking you this interview, but gosh, we are so desperate for it here. I would like to see you Newsom-proof the world, please. And I think after that Davos trip, maybe everyone else would be on that same page too. Just incredible. Let me just ask you, I know we're going to wrap up here soon, but when it comes to protecting individual districts, congressional districts, from some of the things that have been implemented, but also just how leadership at the very top of this state has looked the other way while a lot of this fraud and corruption has taken place. What are some of those things that you just talked about being implemented at the district level to root out some of that fraud now that it's being exposed? What are you doing at home to find that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm using every tool available at the federal level to uncover the fraud that exists in California and to insist upon reform. So, for example, I mentioned the community college fraud, where 1/3 of the applications were fake, 1.5 million applications, millions in financial aid fraud. There's ghost applications. So we asked the Secretary of Education to look into this, and so now they've instituted new identity verification requirements, and this fraud has largely, come to a halt. We on the EDD fraud, we have an investigation ongoing there. I've asked the FBI director to look into what's actually happened to all of this high-speed rail money. Of course, we have the indictments coming in connection with homelessness fraud, which is going to provide, I think, a lot more, basis to do real oversight there. And that's just a start. I'm trying to get a full, comprehensive picture of fraud everywhere it exists in California, and using whatever tools we have to bring it to an end.
Wow, you're such a superhero. People of District 3, you have to keep this man in office. Kevin, what does the future look like for you in terms of political leadership? I mean, you're just such a champion. We need you. Is it Congress for a while? Are you looking beyond that? What do you think?
I don't really know in terms of the sort of the longer time horizon. I think in the near future, I think being in the House is a great place where I can fight for California, and I can be a check against the massive the runaway supermajority and Gavin Newsom in California. So that's really what motivated me to get involved in running for public office, and I think it's more important than ever now when you have this. Newsom administration, and that is not only posing such ongoing threat to the quality of life we have in California, but now could potentially metastasize to the entire country if he ends up running for president. So I think that being in the House to warn the rest of America about what he's done here is going to be a very important role in the coming year as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, glad to hear that you're going to stay and fight there for sure. Okay, ask everyone who comes on Newsom Nonsense the same question. What's your favorite, and I say favorite, but I probably mean least favorite, piece of nonsense from Gavin Newsom?
Oh my gosh, you're asking me to pick one?
Pick one, pick one.
That is just, it's such a hard question. I mean, there are so many things. I mean, you could fill books, volumes
It's true.
worth of Newsom nonsense. It's every day. It's something new. I mean,
No, it's
maybe
true.
the strangest thing recently is, he accused me of lying about California high-speed rail, and so I said, well, if I'm lying, why don't you take me for a ride on the train? I'll make
Yeah, is it done? Is
and
it
of
done and
course,
we didn't know?
yeah, there was no offer extended. So sadly, it appears that the train isn't just magically out there beyond our view.
Oh boy. You know what's kind of sad about the train is that would be great if we actually did have it. It's not that it's a terrible idea. It's just been a disaster and a complete financial suck from start to finish. What a scam, man. And it's probably kept someone from doing it properly in the future too, because he's ruined it and set that precedent. Well, I know that's such a hard question because there are so many things to choose from. And now I'm going to follow it up with an even harder question because we want to seem fair here, don't we? Don't we want to be diplomatic? What would you say Newsom has done to benefit the state of California during his time as governor? What's the best thing he's done for the state?
Oh, well, that's actually not so hard. I
Okay.
think that the best thing Newsom has done is he has galvanized a movement to restore sanity in California by sort of stretching the bounds of insanity that we are subjected to. So, for example, for 6 or 7 straight cycles, the share of the voter registration for both Republicans and independents has increased. Well, for Democrats, it's gone down. And in fact, 1 million new Republicans have registered to vote during Gavin Newsom's time in office. You could argue he is the single best recruiter of Republican voters in California history or anywhere in the country. So I think that he has really put in sharp relief the consequences of this failed radical ideology and the abject, corruption that pervades our state's politics. And perhaps that's going to, lead to us restoring some balance more quickly than if, he hadn't fast forwarded this whole process.
Well, that is absolutely hands down the best answer we've gotten to that question in this series. You should really look into a career in politics, sir. I think you're quite good at this and being diplomatic at the same time. Let's wrap up with this. Give us your advice, your pitch, your best answer on how we take back this state, Republicans, Democrats, independents alike.
I think we just need to, come together under the banner of common sense. You're right to frame the question that way, that I think the coalition isn't going to be just people of one party. It will be Republicans, independents, and some Democrats who believe that our state is worth fighting for and that we have really gotten off track in a way that, has had terrible consequences for millions of people. So I think that if you look at Prop 36 as an example, where you had 70% roughly of California voters who said, we are going to reject what Gavin Newsom has inflicted on us, what the supermajority has inflicted on us. We're going to override our state's political leadership and restore some sanity, restore some common sense here. I think that's a great template for how we can change California going forward.
Brilliant. I agree completely. I'm such a fan of yours. Can I fangirl for a second? I think you're tremendous. I hope that you are in leadership for a very long time to come. And you're doing so much good for this state. If people want to support you, and I know that they do, what's the best way that people can do that?
Oh, very kind. Thank you. My website is electkevinkiley.com. I'm on X and Facebook, Instagram. It's just Kevin Kiley, CA like California, Kevin Kiley, CA. And yeah, thank you for having me on. This is a lot of fun, and I really appreciate what you're doing to try to be a voice for reason and sanity in California. I think that it's going to take all of us working together to really get our state back to what it should be.
Absolutely. 100% agree with that. And I do hope this is the first time of many that you'll come on the show. We need to hear from people just like you. Keep up the good fight. And I appreciate you, and I will look forward to seeing you soon.
All right. Likewise. Thanks so much.
Thank you, sir. And thank you all for joining us on this episode of Politically Basic. We're committed to breaking down the basics so that you get to decide. Be sure to check us out at politicallybasic.com and follow us across all socials at politicallybasic so you don't miss an episode. And we will see you next time.